You hear that the Kentucky Derby winner was on drugs, and we're off. Failed the drug test. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglash for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Okay, let's get over to have some fun right off the bat. And here we go. Subaru ad. The dogs are driving the Subaru. And the little dog in the car seats, they're coming up on an 18-wheeler. And the little pup in the back is saying, and the bulldog driving the 18-wheeler honks the horn.
The Subaru Forester. Dog tested, dog approved.
Okay, so oops. No, I don't know how to turn it off. Close it. Okay. So anyway, so much for that. Let's get over to Tom Fishburne. We're going fast today. I'm in a hurry. Design thinking and the theater of innovation is his cartoon for the day or for the week. How to do design thinking. Okay. First, empathize. And it's got a guy sitting in a chair, an old dad, saying, a boomer probably, if I were a busy mom, I would want. I saw another article that I didn't click on. Yeah, puppies. I saw another article that I didn't click on that had I had a woman just her body mostly, and one baby on her breast and another in her lap that she was also feeding. She must have had twins. And she said, and the title was, Finally, a Realistic View of Motherhood. And I thought, holy smokes. I'm not sure I don't think we're ready for that. I don't think mothers even want to see that. Anyway, but, there's some amazing moms that I know, young moms that are just, there's one young mom at our church, and she's always got two kids, one on each hip, and she's really tough too. Anyway, divine. Number 2, define. Here are 1001 problems we should tackle. Okay, yeah, right. That's going to help you. Ideate. I hate that word. That means think. There's no such thing as a bad idea, which isn't true at all. Most ideas are bad. But then it goes on, as long as it's one of mine, which of course I espouse. Prototype. Let's just make PowerPoint slides instead. 5, test. Which metric, which means which way of measuring, makes our idea look better? I've got an article out on LinkedIn called Integrity as a Modeling Variable, or something like that. And I learned that long ago, that, if you measure for what you want to see, your chances of success are like 0. You're kidding yourself and you're kidding your client, and you better not be charging for what you do. Incoming call, probably spam. We'll turn it off so it isn't annoying. I usually keep it closer. Okay, and implement. Hey, why isn't this working? Down, down, down. Okay, so that's Tom's idea. And so he talks about design thinking has joined the corporate lexicon in a similar fashion as agile. But Natasha Jen's article a few years ago said design thinking is bullshit. And there's a link in the article to that, where she mocked design thinking for using just one tool, 3M Post-it notes, which were kind of an accident, to be honest. And nobody wanted them in the beginning. And, it was a guy who wanted to write in his hymnal. He was in the choir at church. And he wanted to make notes, but he didn't want to write in the church's hymnal, which, of course. And so he kind of cooked it up, and they had kind of a skunk works. And, nobody wanted to fund it. It was a good application for 3M. I've used knockoffs in the past, and they fall off whatever you stuck them to, and they curl up and stuff. 3M is the only one who's really ever made them very well. They have to get the adhesive just right. It has to stay sticky, but it has to pull off clean, and that's not so easy. So it is a pretty good model, but it worked, not because some guy sat in a chair and said, what would choir members want? But rather was working on what this one choir member who had an idea and happened to work at 3M. So, a lot of times, like I said, most ideas, here's the thing. This is the main falsehood of most planning. There's no such thing as a bad idea. If you can get past that and basically, I'm not saying you should rule out every idea right off the bat as soon as it's uttered. I'm just saying you got to think most likely, and especially of your own. I just filed my 5th patent and I tested it this weekend, and it's the only one that I've actually tested like to my own potential death. My wife was videotaping it and she started laughing so loud that she turned the camera off, unfortunately, on our first real flight of the of the test. Well, we got some other footage eventually, and I think it was a huge success. Anyway, it proved the concept with junk I had laying around in my shed, which is totally wrong. I should never have done it, but it kind of worked anyway. All this stuff about the necessity of 8,000-pound climbing rope and real carabiners. Use a chain, use a piece of swing set and some S hooks and hope they don't open up, and some old rope that was laying on the floor. Anyway, so sometimes it's better to risk your own life for your idea than to have a committee do it. Let's just say, okay, we get a lot of materials that look like innovation or look like they make look like they make us more creative. But if you just play these games without a strategy, tracking your progress, track your implementation, they end up being a theatrical thing that most people can point to and say, we tried that. I think back to the story that one of the top guys at Texas Instrument told me down in Dallas one time. And he said, companies had been after, when I was a kid, we had red and green LEDs and we used them in our train set. That was cool. We had blinking lights and, red and green and stuff. And we had them on our little radio controlled sailboat. We had, real red and green lights to tell if you're on port and starboard coming at you or something. But nobody had a blue one. Nobody had the blue LED. And Toshiba and Samsung, I think, a bunch of companies spent like tens of millions of dollars coming up with a blue LED. And guess what happened? A guy, I think he was in Tokyo, a guy in Tokyo came up with it in his garage. True story. Look up the history of the blue LED. Why does that matter? Because you're probably looking at a computer monitor right now that's an LED monitor. And with red and green, it doesn't work. But with red, green, and blue, those are the colors of light. Those are the primary light colors. With red, green, and blue, all of it works. So a lot of times, knowing what you're doing is more important than having the committee practice design thinking. So you want design thinking. Yes, the bolder the better. Only you can't change the product, the shape of the packaging, or find new consumer insights or deviate from the style guide. I always liked having style guides. What's left to design? This package burst. We love those in direct mail. Or, I'm giving a talk on how our company embraces design thinking. Since you're a designer, can you design my slides? Make sure to use Comic Sans, which is a sans serif. It's kind of a balloony looking font. Make sure to use Comic Sans. It kind of looks like Tom Fishburne's name here, actually. Tom, is that your favorite? Anyway, let's go on. Right, here we go. Okay, this one is almost more funny. This one is the title, but Forbes now is not translating. Digital transformation is good. I think you should get, if you're a marketer, if you're a digital marketer, I think you should get that tattooed on your chest. Digital transformation is good. Yabba is not. And we'll find out what Yabba is. Okay, this is from Dr. Augustine Faux or Faux. I don't know how to say it. Not like faux fur, I hope. Okay, in a recent conversation with a CMO, she was very proud of the digital transformation. Over the last 3 years, she'd shifted a large portion of her advertising budget from offline, print, direct mail, TV, etc. Read direct mail, right? Direct mail. This is how catalog companies go under. Not LL Bean, not Land's End. I read the history of Eddie Bauer. What a disaster. I used to buy Eddie Bauer turtlenecks, and they just got to be complete garbage. And I talked to a consultant that I knew was working out there, and he said, yeah, they're cutting costs, and they're just sending out garbage. Well, that might affect your customer file a little bit, customer loyalty. But anyway, she started reading about digital ad fraud. I hope she listened to I'd love to find out who it was. I'll write to Augustine here. I reassured her that this sounds like an interview with a psychologist or something. Don't worry, your your desire to turn into oncoming traffic is normal. Try not to execute on that, or at least self-execution at least. Anyway, I reassured her that transforming her marketing organization into digital-first spending ad budgets in digital is a good thing. It's like, okay, and so here's the punchline. Digital marketing is the most measurable channel. Who says? And what good is it, though? That's the question. Measurable has no value component whatsoever. You could measure every time somebody buys a piece of bubble gum in a bubble gum machine. What does it tell you? It's a kid or something. Without context, without isolating causal variables, most data is meaningless. It's just noise. And even geodemographics, whole neighborhoods and stuff, most models are just nonsense because they are using too particulate of data, too small a pieces. Digital is great for that. Pile up the data, and not know what's going on. Absolutely true. I've talked about that enough. We're going to skip that. So then he goes into why some digital is bad. Programmatic, buying and selling of trillions of ads automatically with algorithms. What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong with that? It's new to both marketers and agencies, so they don't know how to do it. They don't know what's happening. They don't know where the money's going. They don't know who's buying. And most importantly, they do not know who engages and doesn't buy. Because they don't know who even sees the ad. They don't know even who's going in front of. They don't even know what's going adjacent to it or where it's being placed. Okay, so the largest marketers with hundreds of millions of dollars to spend give those dollars to large holdco media agencies. I don't know what a holdco media agency is. They're flying the plane while reading the manual on how to build a plane. I don't know that that's an idiom. I always said building the plane while flying it. But it sounds like they don't even have, those guys aren't even reading the manual. They're learning on the fly. So, if you're a big agency or a big marketer, I'm not saying you should ditch all your digital to do mail like the CMO probably did. Probably just cut all their mail. I'm not saying you should cut it all. I'm saying if you have more than 100,000 customers, you need to be doing mail. You need to absolutely be doing it because it's the best laboratory, because we know that it got delivered. We know that someone had to engage with it. Even if they don't want it at all, they had to look at it so they could decide if they wanted to throw it in the trash or not. And the decision maker in the household makes that decision. So we know something that digital will never know. They'll never know if I saw it. They'll never know if it was even placed, right? Much less if I saw it, much less if I'm a decision maker, much less if I engaged with it. It just goes by. You can say, well, we only count clicks as engagement, okay? And the bounce rate is 50 to 80%. So most people who click don't know what they're engaging with. Marketers should not assume the media agencies tasked with spending millions of dollars of their money know digital marketing any better than the marketers do themselves. Well, that's reassuring. This marketer does their own marketing buying through a DSP. Not sure what a DSP is. I hate articles by smart people that use acronyms that I don't know, that change all the time. Okay. For example, but he says you can track fraud. For example, did users who arrive on the settlement claim sites actually complete the claim form? Now, here's a shocker. It says since bots cannot earn money by filling out the claim forms, there's virtually no bot activity on them. Note, however, that in other cases, if the advertiser pays for completed forms, bots will do exactly that thing to get paid. He's just basically contradicted himself 100%. I'll reach out to him. So, reassurance again. Digital transformation is good, but here's the punchline. This is a really good summary. Advertisers should realize that the vast scale of programmatic consists of ads shown to bots instead of to humans. He's like saying most of the ads are shown to bots, and the bots are clicking it to prove that you're engaged. There's engagement and there's measurement. They're measurable. You can measure all the clicks that the bots are doing. And the bots are better at clicking than the people. Number 2, the cost efficiency of programmatic ads comes from fake sites that can afford to sell ads at very low prices. They give you a great deal, and then they send armies of minion bots to click on your ads so you know it's working. But maybe they go on your site and they browse your site afterwards so that they don't even bounce. They're the part that don't bounce. Maybe they even fill out the form for you, as he says above. Okay, so the performance in quotes of programmatic comes from false bot clicks on your ads. When you realize all that, you've taken the first step towards digital maturity. The days of frat parties and sorority hazings are over. Time to get some digital maturity. If you're still at the digital marketing frat party yelling yabba dabba doo from the Flintstones, Fred Flintstone, i.e. letting yet another black box algorithm do advertising by buying ads for you, you should turn that do into a don't. I tell marketers, yabba dabba don't. Don't let algorithms spend and waste millions of dollars for your money in programmatic channels, but take some steps toward digital maturity. Now, in the middle of the article, which I totally skipped because obviously I'm having some issues here, he said a client of his used Google ads and let their algorithms buy the ads, and that's somehow better. Oh my. So if you're in this predicament and you're a marketer and you want to know what's going on instead of having measurable advertising, you want to actually measure it, you want to actually find out what's working and what isn't working, call an old school direct marketer. Elevate your marketing. Find out what works. And if you want a good case study, I just did a webinar last week and I talked about how direct mail became the foundation for a major retailer, publicly traded, and then was leveraged into TV and digital and ignited the best growth that they ever seen. They went public, huge success story, kept going through the pandemic. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. Bye-bye.